Welcome to Communing with Divine, a podcast where I share my spiritual quest and the lessons and the insights that I've received from many divine beings and energies during meditation. I am your host, Meraki. Now, let's begin. Hello and welcome to this 6th episode of the first series, You Are Almost Welcome. I'm so happy that you joined me. I want to start with a quick apology just to say that I'm sorry that so much time passed between episode 5 and this episode. It wasn't my intention, but I ended up moving and I had a lot of unpacking to do. And not only did it take me longer than I thought it would, I also didn't have the energy at the end of the day to record anything else. So even though all these episodes were prepared, I wasn't able to record anything. So I'm sorry, but I'm here. I'm here now. And hopefully there won't be any more lapses in releasing episodes. I'm going to start with something from this past June the 15th, 2025. So just 10 days ago. I know normally I am progressing from 2022 and moving forward from there, but I want to include this now just because of the time that's in it and that it was interesting. I did some scrying, and I don't scry all that often, but I do really enjoy it. My method is very different from most methods, from what I understand. Most people use things that are sort of clear. So people will stare into a bowl of water, like in copper or something like that. They'll use a black mirror. They'll use a clear crystal ball, things like that. Some people, ancient Egyptians, I believe, used oil. So that would be the normal way that most people would scry. But I actually use a crystal that has markings in it, a crystal ball, and I have many of them. And I'll just go around and see which one draws my attention. And I'll sit down, and actually the markings within the crystal and the cracks and the different shades of clarity, as I look into the crystal, will begin to take on form and shape. It's never the same, almost never the same, I would say. And so I'm drawing or seeing different scenes within the shape of the crystal all the time. All right, so as I said, this is from June 15th. There was a dragon perched on a cliff or on higher ground. It was leaning forward and looking towards something with intensity. There was a feeling or a sense of importance or urgency of action coming from this dragon. The energy from the dragon felt dangerous or maybe revved up, like raring to go. I followed the dragon's gaze, and I saw that he was looking at an opening that was either a cave entrance or a portal. It felt more like a portal, honestly, but I couldn't tell you exactly if it was one or the other. There was a figure of a very large and imposing man who was carrying a long rod or a long staff in his left hand. He was walking towards the dragon with purpose and without fear. Now, standing behind him were two smaller figures. They did not pass through into the dragon's chamber. So either they were there to help the larger man with the staff to traverse in and out of the portal, or they were not allowed or willing to enter the cave. But whatever it was, they didn't enter, and there was a sense of fear or of great caution coming from both of them. However, there was no sense of danger or fear from the man, and there was certainly no sense of danger or fear from the dragon in relation to the man. The dragon was waiting for him, expecting him. I sensed that the man was bringing information or an important update, and perhaps asking for help from the dragon. But whatever this information was, or purpose was, of the man, I felt that it was going to set off a chain of action, a chain of events. I was called away from my scrying for about an hour, and when I came back, I looked again, hoping that I would still see the same scene, but the scene was gone. And instead, I could see the dragon and the dragon was in flight. The wingspan of this dragon was amazing. It was absolutely huge. And it was flying with intent, and it was flying with purpose. I felt that it was either going to share this information that it received from the man with a more powerful dragon, or perhaps a group of dragons, and that action would then be taken. So it was either that or the dragon itself that I was observing was flying somewhere where it was going to act on its own. But I sensed there was a real sense of sort of laser-focused determination by this dragon to reach its destination and to fulfill its duty, whatever that was. I felt that while I was looking into a different dimension, and this is why I'm sharing this, I was looking into a different dimension, but whatever was happening there was related to our dimension in some way, and I don't know what it is, and I don't know what the meaning of this was. But I hoped if I shared it, somebody who's listening might understand the significance of it and what it means, if anything at all. Okay, so that's all about my scrying, and we can go on now back to February the 5th, 2022. I'm speaking with the Archangel Michael. He's explaining to me that duality does not exist in truth, and that energy is not really good or evil. Energy just is. He's explaining that it comes down to how we use energy, what we turn it into, or how we apply it. Energy itself is not necessarily one thing or the other in its natural or in its original state. It's how it's used, how it's applied, that makes it what it is. We transmute energy from its original state into other things, other states, and we can change it back again. We can take energy that may be repellent, painful, or hurtful to us and change it into something that feels good, into something beautiful. We can also do the reverse. But we must keep in mind that people can perceive what is good and what is bad very differently depending on their perspective. And so good and bad aren't always definitive categories. Having said that, what I understand at this point in my journey is that the original energy is something that we would call neutral. And we take this neutral energy and we manipulate its vibrations. We change it into something different, but it can always be returned to its neutral state. January 23rd, 2022. In episode 4, I mentioned that I was once asked by a healer who believes that suffering is essential to achieve significant personal and spiritual growth. What is so wrong with suffering? My answer to this was that, in my opinion, everything was wrong with suffering. And I explained that I didn't believe that suffering was necessary for growth or to achieve enlightenment. Well, I should say spiritual growth, but growth in general. You know, actually, if you think about it, most people attain spiritual growth and enlightenment through far more peaceful means like meditation and inner contemplation. Also, in my opinion, I don't believe that extreme suffering was part of this original program. It's more like there was the potential for it, and some fool opened a spam email and the rest of us got infected. Sometimes I think that if we could just find and connect to our true essence and step into empathy and unconditional love, if we take the time to find the divine within ourselves, then suffering and pain couldn't exist. But maybe that's just a pipe dream. I understand that some healers and spiritual and New Age leaders and teachers use the concept that suffering is an important tool for growth as a coping mechanism to help people deal with this world, which is fine. I understand that. But there are issues with this, because by insisting that suffering is an essential part of the human experience, they are limiting people's ability to envision a much better and a very different world. In fact, to my mind, a world without extreme suffering is the world as it should be. Also, encouraging the acceptance of abusive behavior that causes suffering as being normal or as essential to personal growth only gives that behavior more power and more leverage to continue its hurtful and its destructive path. Even worse, it seems to me that by teaching people to accept suffering, especially extreme suffering, as both inevitable and essential for growth, They can inadvertently encourage people to remain at a certain level beyond which they can't progress, or situations which they cannot extract themselves from. People are sometimes told that they should embrace their suffering as a lesson or as a gift and use it as a platform to quote-unquote level up their energetic vibrations. But people often fail in being able to do this, and this only adds further suffering to their experience. The idea that what would be described as their failure to springboard from a place of suffering into a higher energetic vibration or level, or however someone might describe that, is flawed, because we have to remember that the level that's being described and the failure that's being outlined is being done through human eyes, not the eyes of the divine. And human eyes and knowledge are limited in terms of assessing anything to do with someone's spiritual enlightenment, spiritual path, life path, successes, or failures. Also, this sort of a judgment and a sense of failing sends a message to the person that they're somehow less worthy than the person who's judging them, the self-appointed teacher or guru who sits in judgment of their spiritual path. And this can bring far more unnecessary hardship and despair for people. They might be told that their lesson hasn't been learned, that they have more work to do. Self-blame can rear its head because of this, and with it can come despair. Sometimes a misplaced belief can enter their mind that suggests that they are somehow inherently unworthy. None of this is true. Suffering may be part of this reality, but suffering is not required for spiritual growth or as a lesson. Also, it's important to keep in mind that no one else knows what your path is or what your lessons are. No one else can define the success or failure of your soul's path or whether a lesson has been learned or not. It's nothing but hubris for anyone to think that they have access to the sort of knowledge they would need in order to make that assessment. Another thing we should realize is that we are all equally worthy, no matter how it may seem to us or to the people around us and those whose ego blinds them to their own specific weaknesses. A belief that suffering is essential as a means to spiritual growth can block your ability to perceive and to fully access the divine within you. This can encourage self-doubt and self-judgment. It can cause us to look externally for approval and acceptance, for reassurance. All of this serves as a barrier to connecting to the divine that lies within all of us. And it really is a very simple thing to connect with. For a start, you can begin with the belief that it is there and that you can access it. It is ever present and ever available to you because it is you. And that is something that cannot be denied. Many people have complicated steps to accessing the divine within. And I just want to make a really quick point here, which is that things like prayers, mantras, visualizations, all of these things, guided meditations, they're all wonderful if they help, but they are not necessary, and that is an important differentiation to make. As an aid, all of these things are wonderful. As a requirement, they can become an impediment. Because if we believe that we require these things in order to access the divine within us that is us, then we have a barrier between our true essence and this conscious reality, which is not necessary. I believe that at the end of the day, it's as simple as this. If we believe the divine resides within us, that our essence is divine, and that we can access and connect to the inner divine, our inner divine easily, then we can. If we know that we are worthy because we are the one, then the door swings open. If we do not believe that finding the divine within us is possible, then no matter what external steps we take, no matter what rituals we do, no matter what books we read or spiritual teachers we follow, we will not be able to connect with that which lies within us. For the simple reason that we do not believe that we have the ability to do so. Fear and doubt cast false shadows that we believe to be truth, and so we don't go within. But we can't look externally to find our inner path. We can't look externally to find the divine within us. Using external things that help us go within is perfectly fine, as I said, if we need them when they are combined with the knowledge that connecting to the divine within us is our birthright, knowing that this connection is natural and always within our reach, and that we are all equally worthy of making this connection. This is what I feel allows us to access our divine essence. In my opinion, lower level consciousness promotes and accepts ideas such as suffering is required for growth. Human beings can assess and know what other people's life lessons and challenges are. That karma is something humans can see or know within the lives of other people. That others are somehow qualified to sit in judgment about another person's life path or their soul's journey or their perceived successes or failures. Someone who thinks they can assess who is an old soul and who is a new soul in real terms. And that only the worthy or spiritually evolved can access or connect to the divine within. Lower consciousness applies restrictions and judgment. It puts up barriers where none exist. It sows doubt and fear. It encourages reliance on things that are outside of yourself, which is a divergent path. The only thing that lower consciousness requires is that you accept its barriers and its deceptions as truth. But it's only a facade that is based in fear and that circumvents truth. In the book The Third Jesus, on page 55, Deepak Chopra writes about lower levels of consciousness. He writes, quote, "At this level of consciousness we feel victimized. And in the midst of such experiences, divine grace seems a remote promise at best. In order for grace to work, life must change, and for life to change, consciousness must change first," unquote. And I think this applies very well to what I'm speaking about, which is that lower level consciousness cannot connect to the divine within easily, because lower level consciousness does not believe that it's really attainable. Its foundation is fear and judgment, doubt and exclusion. So while lower level consciousness may pay lip service to the idea, it doesn't truly believe that the God within can be accessed. Maybe that it even doesn't even exist. Fear is not love. I'll say that again. Fear is not love. Deception is not truth. Judgment and doubt are not faith. I believe that to connect to the divine within, love, truth, and faith, or belief, are required. And these are things of a higher consciousness that lower level consciousness cannot even begin to conceive of. Lower level consciousness believes in suffering, and so it must also by default believe in a real separation from the divine, because in the presence of the divine, there is no suffering. And so to believe in suffering as a true and necessary thing for spiritual enlightenment and growth is to disavow the divine that we all are, and to reinforce a belief that our separation is real and is truth. I spoke about unconditional versus conditional love in an earlier episode, and it comes into play here with the lower level consciousness that limits beliefs of what human beings are capable of. Unconditional love is not a love that requires someone to serve you in some way or to be useful to you. Unconditional love is not a tool of manipulation or of control. Unconditional love is not selfish or used to inflict pain on others. Selfishness, manipulation, and control describe conditional love, which is not love at all. It is the opposite of love. One of the most beautiful things about unconditional love is the ability to differentiate between the negative behavior of a person and the soul essence of a person. And while you may decide to walk away from a relationship or a friendship with someone who is unable to honor their divine essence or honor yours, Unconditional love means that you can see the behavior for what it is. The fear, the struggle, and the pain from the damage caused by others. Often this damage and pain were caused by the conditional love that they were subjected to throughout their lives. And so you can have standards when you love someone unconditionally and when you hold unconditional love, but standards without judgment and condemnation. On page 57 and 58 of The Third Jesus, Deepak Chopra says, quote, "Love that is selfish cannot be turned into the love of God," unquote. This is because selfish love is conditional and a complete perversion of divine unconditional love. Divine or unconditional love is grace. It's mercy, empathy, and compassion. Selfish and conditional love is control and is a tool of suffering and anguish. One is love in truth. The other is fear, masked and presented as love. Selfish or conditional love does not come from the heart. It comes from ego. And the ego is concerned with the self and with the self alone. Unconditional love and conditional love stand in complete opposition to one another and should never be confused or conflated with each other. Ego is the tool that causes us to perceive incorrectly that there is a separation between ourselves and others, and between ourselves and the divine. Ego is a tool of the light perverted that creates the us and the them, and encourages us to believe that what is not us is bad or negative in some way. Ego justifies the control of others. It leads to oppression. It leads to abuse and violence being justified and permeated against the others who are not us, and against those who are not me. Ego masquerades as something protective and caring. It masquerades as something pure and even sometimes divine. An ego wrapped in a false cloak of its own making that it considers to be divine or divinely created is very dangerous and extremely damaging, because it presents itself as divine or as a directive from the divine when it is not. The cruelty and harm that an ego wrapped in a false cloak of alleged divinity that it can cause knows no bounds. And those who accept this as truth within themselves and within others can contribute their energies to create a machine of massive and widespread suffering and destruction, where delusion and justification run rife. In a group setting, this is terrifying. Missions to subjugate, control, convert, or eradicate the them, who are not us, become a mission that is claimed to be sanctioned and directed by the divine, or that is righteous in some way. And there's often great responsibility and pressure placed upon the members of such a group to see the directive through in order to honor the mission and to escape punishment, human or divine. The most heinous acts are justified and cleansed in this way by the ego wrapped in a false cloak that attempts to mimic divinity. At the core of these ideas, directives, and behaviors lies fear, and fear is not God. Fear is not divine. It is an expression of the light perverted, which is the opposite of divine and is the opposite of love. Ego blocks spiritual growth and development because it both blinds and deceives. It presents itself as concern and protection, or as discernment or superiority of caliber. It presents itself as good versus evil. Ego urges the control and the management of all things that are not us. It fulfills its purpose to completion when we deny others their free will. Ego creates division and separation between us and all that exists within this reality, and between us and the divine, between us and the all. It creates the illusion of higher and lower hierarchies, when all that truly exists is a perfect moment of the convergence of the all that is always one. I will say that again. All that truly exists is a perfect moment of the convergence of the all that is always one. Ego results in subjective observation and processing versus objective. Personally, I think that because of ego, objectivity is nearly impossible to obtain, except for those select few who have managed to separate themselves enough from ego to identify and block its influence. It's ego that causes our perception of separation from the all, from the one. And our perception and belief that we are separate and individual beings mean that we view everything through a subjective prism. Everything we see, hear, taste, smell, feel, and experience is processed through our own personal filters that have been honed throughout our life because of our ego and the illusions it manifests. We often confuse our perspective with truth, which it is not. It is a limited, myopic, ego-restricted, minute version of truth as we have perceived and processed it. That's all. But we hold on to it tightly and we defend it blindly. When we confuse our perceived version of our experienced reality with truth, we limit our understanding of the all and our ability to receive and be privy to wonderful mysteries and insights that can help us to see truth as it is. All of these behaviors to defend our perceptions as truth and to toe the line and present reality in a specific way that reflects our associations and communities comes from ego and from its misguided idea that we are not part of the all, that we are separate beings, experiencing a singular and disconnected reality to that of the rest of this dimensional universe. And that is just not truth. A quote I read many years ago succinctly explains what I'm trying to say. It was a quote from a 6-year-old daughter who was explaining something to her father, and she said, quote, "What you believe is what you see. Your mind is your eyes. Your eyes are just something," end quote. And I think that if we could all understand this statement, we could loosen the grip that ego has on us and begin to inject a little humility into our lives, allowing great truths the opportunity to present themselves to us and to be recognized by us. February 20th, 2022. Mother Universe is talking to me about our belief that our root chakra only draws up earth energy. Mother Universe is saying that the earth is our mother, and so we are absolutely drawing up earth energy. But what we don't think about is the fact that we are also drawing in universal energy. The earth carries the vibration of the universe within its own unique energetic vibration. So the earth's energy also includes the vibration of the universe within it. It's as if the energy of the universe is the bass note, a bass note, that is incorporated and resonates within all of the other vibrations of everything that exists within the universe. Mother Universe is explaining that it's not just the divine that is important. The universe is as well, because the universe is where we play out the program. So when we ask for things like healing or transmuting our energy or help with a situation, the universe is involved as well as the divine. This is because we're asking the program that we are in to modify the code we've written, or the code that our families and our ancestors have written, as it relates to and affects us and the others who we interact with. Part of what we're asking for when we ask for help or for corrections to be made is the job or the mandate of the universe. And the universe is part of the mechanism for transformation. We can appeal directly to the divine, of course, without turning to the universe or directly involving her. She will do her job regardless. But I'm being told that it's important that we understand that the universe is part of facilitating these changes and corrections. Now, I just want to spend a minute and explain sort of how Mother Universe presents to me, how I perceive her. She appears to me exuding a platinum white light, which is different than sort of the white blue light and white gold light that I'll often see with divine. I perceive her as sitting within this recessed oval or rounded area of bright light, sort of above my line of vision. So that's just like a quick little insight into partially how I perceive her. Mother Universe is asking me if I remember the first time that I experienced and understood that the universe, the divine, and everything that exists resides within me. And I do, vividly. I had been looking outside of myself for answers, and obviously I was met with failure after failure. Then I did a relaxation session, and I immediately went within myself. I had the most amazing time traveling throughout the universe and the divine within me, seeing everything and really feeling the presence of the divine within the universe. It was an amazing gift, and it was an amazing experience. She's encouraging me to think about this more often, as she says it will help me to raise my vibration as she works on me, which she is doing now. My whole body is pulsing from the work that she's doing, not vibrating, pulsing. She says, "Now, child, you are ready for what is to come next." As I learn and grow, I can see and understand more truth and insights that eluded me before. So these things often come back again and again. And as I grow, I can process and understand them in a whole new light, with clearer eyes, so to speak. A lot of this growth involves dissolving old beliefs that cloud my ability to see properly. Old beliefs run deep and cause resistance to the processing of what I am being shown and taught, as they are meant to be understood. We're often not aware that misbeliefs and incorrect ideas exist within us because we formed them before we were self-aware. We were taught them from childhood, and they were reinforced in us as we grew up, often. The resistance caused by these beliefs or misbeliefs impede our ability to accept or assimilate truth when truth comes into conflict with our misbeliefs, because these misbeliefs are hardwired into our consciousness. So they must be addressed, and this takes a lot of work. But there can be no internal growth without sincere effort on our part. So much of the work these beings do with me is not so much healing as it is the dissolving of the built-up plaque of resistance, a cleaning out of the old in order to allow for truth to enter. This takes time and is done in steps. And so what I may share with you today may not actively reflect truth as it is presented to me in its full and real form. It will evolve and become more pure, my perception and understanding of it, as I evolve and grow. And as I learn to allow. And that's a really important thing. We must allow, not resist. Because I'm not at a place yet where I can see truth fully for what it is. I can only see a version of truth or a portion of truth, because it's somewhat clouded or obscured by the filter that is my mind's belief system. But hopefully, as I grow and I cleanse these things from me that cause resistance and cloud my vision, my understanding of all of this will become more and more reflective of truth. And then I can share these new insights and new understandings with all of you. We can all grow together. The divine and the universe are manifestations or aspects of the source, of the all, of the one, that we can interact with directly. They are subsets of the all that work with us. It has to be this way. We cannot take on the fullness of all that is. It's too much. Our minds can't fathom the vastness and complexity of the all when we are limited by our human consciousness. It's like the sacred feminine and the sacred masculine, or the god and the goddess. They have multiple aspects within themselves, of themselves. And they are also both reflections and aspects of each other, because they are two halves of a whole. In truth, they do not function separately, but we separate them in order to be able to understand them, because that's how we see it reflected in the world around us. We take these examples of male and female that are around us, and we look at the energy that is. And then we break it up into smaller parts that reflect our perception. But that's only my understanding of this at the moment, and it may change as I learn more. I may look back at this and say to myself, I cannot believe that's how you interpreted that information. But it's all about the process, and I'm sharing the process in the journey with you, mistakes and all. Well, that's it for this episode today. I just want to thank you all so much for being with me and for joining me today. And I hope you'll continue to join me on my journey of learning and spiritual growth and hear more messages and insights from Divine, because there's way more that's about to happen. I can tell you that much. All right. Thanks again. Have a great day.